Welcome back to Lifestyle with Kim Litvak. Today, oh my goodness, it has gotten frigid outside. October is here, hence the pink. So we get to honor all those who have been fighting and winning the war on breast cancer. So I wanted to ode to that with chicken and dumplings, something cozy, something stick to your bones. So today, like I said and promised, we are doing real chicken and dumplings. Now I am taking a little cheat because you can make your own stock broth or whatever. I'm not going to do that because that takes hours. So I am going to use a boxed stock. If need be, we can always add a little water to that, but that'll impart flavor. So it's really quite simple. These are pretty much the ingredients that go into it. This is of course chicken breast, and we're going to just throw all of this into this pot. Getting right into it, I'm going to go ahead and just roughly chop up this onion. Keep in mind, this does not need to be perfect because you're going to strain all these things out. We're just imparting the flavor when we cook the chicken and into the broth, so when we do the dumplings here in a little bit, there's already flavor, added flavor to the stock. We'll just roughly do that with the onion. Now you don't even really have to peel it. I'm a little weird on that, so I'm gonna go ahead and peel it. And literally, we're just going to drop it in the stock. So, and we'll peel this one, this half too. I think we make chicken and dumplings like a daunting task. It really is quite simple, and it tastes amazing. So there's really no reason not to treat yourselves, even on a weeknight or on a Sunday. Again, awesome. I'm just gonna crudely chop up my celery. The celery is so fresh, it smells so good. Who else loves the smell of fresh celery? I liked the smell of fresh celery before I liked celery. And now I really like celery. And just like that, we just add it to the stock. I have a little bit of fresh parsley here. I'm gonna give it like a very, very rough chop. And then add that. And then for garlic, I mean, you can only put one garlic clove if you want, but I like a little bit extra flavor. Just give it a smack and then just easily peel it. And really, that's it. You just want to kind of smash it. Whew, that garlic. I'm gonna give that just one more smack so we really release that garlic flavor. And we're gonna add one bay leaf. And you don't really have to worry about changing out this because everything is going into one pot. Otherwise you would want something separate for chopping up your meat a little bit. And we're just gonna roughly, again, chop our chicken. Now once the chicken is cooked, we'll go back and give it another once over to make sure that they're all bite size. But this is so that we don't have to cook it for forever. Breaking it down just a smidge. Add it to the pot. And now we are just gonna add the most favorite of cheats, which will save you so much time. And just add it all in. And now a favorite hack of mine, even when you're making soups and things that call for stock, or broth. I mostly use stock these days just because it has more flavor. But I do 3/4 of the way stock, and then I'll add like a container of this, well, about a half a container of this of water. It makes your stock go further, and you don't need all of it. I mean, you're just looking for the flavor. And so if you do mostly stock and a little bit of water, you'll still get that without having to spend a ton of money on stock. So I'm gonna grab some water and I'll be right back. And also by using the carton, you already know it holds 4 cups. So you already know that if you fill it up halfway, you got 2 cups. So to that, I'm gonna add quite a bit of salt. I'd say a good couple of teaspoons there. And a good amount of pepper. I would say a good teaspoon of pepper. So remember, we're gonna add those dumplings and they need as much help as they can possibly get. So we're just gonna, and literally this took like, what, 5 minutes? You spend a lot of money in a restaurant for these. So I'm just gonna put these on the stove, get it up to a boil and let it go for about 35 minutes, 35 minutes, depending on when the chicken is cooked through. So this has been going for about 30, 35, 40 minutes. We're gonna go ahead and drain it, which is definitely a process. I'll show you when I get over there. I've just put a strainer on top of a big bowl to where it doesn't touch the bottom, so the liquid can kind of go down. But you wanna be careful of splash ups because this is really hot. Move our chicken pieces, which are very tender now and don't want me to pick them up. But as best you can, fish those out. And those vegetables have given off all the flavor that they possibly can. You can see how tender those are, although piping hot. So there's that. Now we're gonna take this enriched stock, if you will. We're gonna add it right back to the pot. We're gonna put this back on the stove. We're not gonna heat it yet. We're gonna get a jump start on our dumplings, and then we'll put this back on the burner. Okay, so now we're gonna go ahead and prep for our dumplings, and the chicken is just kind of hanging out, cooling off a little bit so we can get that sliced into more manageable bite-sized pieces. To this bowl, I've already added 2 cups of unbleached all-purpose flour. If you have the bleached variety, no worries. I just don't want that in my food. And then we're gonna add a tablespoon of baking powder, about 1.5 teaspoons of salt, and then we've got 1 cup plus 2 tablespoons of milk. I just used 2% milk. If you want to go for it, you could always do whole, but the recipe doesn't call for it having to have more fat to the milk. And so now we get to make our dumplings, which some may consider this the best part. I'm gonna mix this together. I don't know if you're like me. I definitely have a favorite of my spatulas. This is my all-time favorite one. I have others, but they just don't measure up. And I'm gonna add just a smidge more. We're gonna roll it out too, but I'm just gonna add a smidge more flour. Some days are just, there's more moisture in the air than others. And so while baking, which I would kind of consider this, is a science, it's not a science, because sometimes our atmosphere contributes to the end goal. So that looks perfect. Okay. And we're going to just let this sit for about 5 minutes, and I'll get my flour ready for when it's ready to be rolled out. . So I've scooped all of the dough out on my mat, and I've got flour underneath, and I put flour on top. This is a wet dough until you work more flour into it, and you'll see that it'll get a little more sturdy. And you just start working the dough. It's gonna be a very soft dough though, which is what will make wonderful dumplings. Just a little bit more flour. And that's how you clean your hands, is by adding a little bit more flour. It's starting to look more like dumplings. Yum. We're gonna go ahead and add a little bit of flour to our rolling pin. And we're just gonna start rolling the dough out. And if it looks like it's sticking a little bit, you can always add a smidge more flour. The flour is gonna help. The reason why you don't really mind adding the flour is it's really gonna thicken that broth, and it's gonna create like this gravy in there, and it's gonna be fantastic. So don't worry about adding more flour. It's okay. Now mine is rolling out rather well, but if you start to roll your dough out and it keeps coming back in on itself, cover it up, let it sit for 5 minutes, come back, and it'll probably have resolved itself. So I think that looks rather good. I'm gonna check my broth has come to a simmer, so I'm gonna check that right quick, make sure that it doesn't boil itself dry, and I'm gonna go ahead and wash these fingers. So now I'm gonna start cutting my dough. Do notice that I rolled it out to about a half, just a little bit less than half of an inch of thickness, because when they get into that hot stock, they're gonna plump up, and then they're gonna shrink a little bit. So you're gonna add all of this to that pan. So what I'm just gonna take a pastry cutter, and you do whatever shape makes you happy. You could also 100% use a pizza cutter, which I have one that might make sense for this, but I didn't. I grabbed this instead. And now we'll just go the other way. Okay, I'm going to take the first batch over, and we're just going to drop them right in. And lay them away from yourself, so if there are any splashes, it's not you. And I'll go grab the rest and keep going. And now you want to give it the most gentle of stirs, just to make sure everything is pretty much submerged. Kind of break them up just a smidge. And we're gonna let that go for about 20-30 minutes. Okay, so now that our stock has had a chance to cook for about 20 minutes, we are now going to start breaking up our chicken and just a little bit more manageable bite-sized pieces, if you will. Now, I will say, if you really are pressed on time and you want to make this like a weeknight meal and you just don't want it to be all fussy, you can 100% use like a rotisserie chicken and speed a lot of this process up. Now for me, I like imparting a little bit more flavor to my stock, into the chicken and what have you. As you can see, some of the chicken pieces still have the fresh parsley on it. We're not gung-ho, making sure all of that is off. I don't have time for that. Plus, that parsley is giving a lot of good flavor to that chicken. Never underestimate what fresh herbs can do for your dishes. Now, different herbs obviously go in at different times. Parsley can handle it, even though it looks like a delicate little flower, but it can handle some heat. If you were doing like a basil, you'd want to add that at the very end off heat, because basil is wonderful and temperamental. So, like a lot of people I know. So yes, we're just gonna keep breaking this up, and then we'll add it to that stock into those dumplings, and then we'll let it cook for just a smidge longer. And we're not being overly precise on breaking it into pieces, whatever size pieces you would like to capture with like your spoon or whatever. And this is about probably close to a pound and a half, 2 pounds of chicken. You could always use more if you wanted to, but, and see, that chicken is so tender, you barely have to even try to get it to break apart. Now, some fun things that you could serve with this would definitely be a salad. Maybe something with like a fruity element to it, like dried cherries or something. Just because this is gonna be so hearty and so savory, that element would be really nice to add to like a side dish. But this is quintessential fall food right here, if you ask me. When the weather starts to turn like it is, it's starting to get like in the 40s now, which personally I'm not ready for. But if I have to endure it, then I want to endure it with chicken and dumplings in my life. And as you see, most of the time that it's taken to make this, really the pot did all the work. We really did very little to it. So we're gonna add this over to the pot. And now we're just gonna add our chicken. I wish you could smell this right now. Seriously, it is like, it's like intoxicating. Get all those fresh herbs in there too. And once again, you're gonna use your spoon and just work it in. See that gravy? Remember me telling you about the flour? It's created this gravy to it. So we're gonna let this go for about 5-10 minutes more. And then it's eating time. Oh, can't wait. And as promised, beautiful rich gravy in there. And just scoop. Piping hot chicken and dumplings. And literally, you tell me that there's not something else on this planet that is more like a warm hug than this. I can't wait to try it. I went ahead and put just a little more pepper on top. And stir that in just a smidge so I don't get like a huge bite of pepper. Seriously, you don't need to go to a restaurant. This is absolutely perfect. That extra pepper on top gives it a nice little zing. Literally, I think I'm gonna finish the whole bowl. And maybe another bowl. Those dumplings are cooked through, and they are so soft and pillowy. The chicken is absolutely perfect, tons of flavor. Fresh parsley, we kept on the chicken just because it was there. It's just a nice little something something. But this is absolutely delicious. You have to make this recipe. Get a cold day, don't get a cold day. Make chicken and dumplings, you will not regret it. So, as always, please remember to like, comment, and subscribe. Hit that bell so you don't miss any future episodes. I can't wait to share what's more coming from the lifestyle of Kim Litvak. Until next time, make yourself a pot of chicken and dumplings. So it's no longer the claw.